And we're talking about fasting. Wow, that amazing tool that we have been using to put our diabetes in remission, to get off of diabetes medications, to improve our metabolic health, in fact, to reverse our diabetes. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes. That's right. That's what we're working on right now, type 2 diabetes and reversing it. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. Thank you for joining us tonight as we move through another fasting phase, right? So I am now 73 hours, a little over 73 hours in my fast for this week. As you know, we started the year by talking about developing a new attitude, a new process, a new way of thinking about our metabolic health. And that's what we're going to be continuing to do tonight as we move through this process. We'll come back and we'll talk more about that. But so glad that you're here, whatever platform you're joining us from, whether that's here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, or TikTok, or Twitter, any place that you're finding us, or Twitch, actually. Let me add that one in there. So glad that you are out there and that you are joining us. All right, so let's go back and let's go through. And you heard me kind of giving that pitch there just a minute ago as we walk through, hey, what's going on here on the channel? Well, several years ago, let me say that, years and years ago, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And I was diagnosed right as I was about to start medical school. And in the process of going through medical school and going through residency, and then going through a fellowship, and then beginning to treat patients, I handled myself and I treated my patients the way I was taught to manage diabetes. And notice the word I used. I was taught to manage diabetes, not to reverse diabetes. And in fact, it wasn't until recently that the American Diabetic Association came out with criteria for what they called putting diabetes in remission, okay? A word that we've kind of coined and said, okay, we're the word that we're going to use is reversing. And you may hear a lot of people talk about reversing diabetes. And as we were thinking about how to improve my personal health, and as I began seeing patients, and not began, but as I saw patients over years and years and years, realizing that the old model, while it did the things that we wanted it to do in terms of managing diabetes and in terms of improving blood sugars, it didn't go all the way. And we were still having significant complications. In fact, around the world right now, there are over 1 billion, that's billion with a B, people who are living either with prediabetes or with diabetes. That's 1 billion. And the numbers are continuing to go up, and the complications are continuing to go up, and it doesn't seem as though there is an end in sight. And so I began thinking about myself and my health, and as I talked to my physician and began to do research and began to read and began to think about, okay, how do I do things differently? The New Year, New Model, New Year, New You model was born. And within that model, we began thinking of what are some of the tools that we could use to help people in their everyday life. Because if I can give you back the power, if I can give you back the control, the ability to make decisions, then we're giving you back the power. You've heard me talk about unlimited potential, the unlimited potential that you have at your fingertips to make change, to improve your metabolic health. And part of that is with the fasting. And so fasting is an amazing process. And before we get into that discussion, let me go and do like you know how we do here on the channel. I've got my meters that we're going to take a look at here in just a minute. I've got those off to the side. I've got my report that's right down below. And we're going to take a look to see what my monitors are showing in terms of what my blood sugar is and what my blood sugar has been doing over the course of today. And in fact, we're going to look back and see what it's been doing over the course of the last several days, that monitor that you're seeing right there down below. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's hop over there. Well, first, let me do my check-in to let you know how I'm feeling and how things are going as we move through the course of this fast. And as you heard me say, that I am actually now a little over 72 hours, actually a little over 73 hours in this week's fast. I normally start the fast on Tuesday, do a check-in on Wednesday, but I actually started the fast this week. I started it Sunday night or Monday morning, and so we are now 72 hours, a little over 72 hours, as I said, into that fast. So let's talk about how I'm feeling as we do our check-in. And, you know, as I always talk about, there are three places or three areas where people can run into issues, and there are physical, mental, and emotional. So let's run through those together. So physically, when we talk about fasting, people typically will talk about their energy level, talk about things like being lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, and so forth. And I have to say that lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, palpitations, I've not had any of those. Those are pretty uncommon for me. I have had occasion, if you heard my check-in last week, where I did feel a little lightheaded, and part of it, I'll talk about that here in a minute. Part of it was not getting into the fast the way I should have. Okay. Physically, my energy is feeling good. This afternoon at work, I was, we came back from lunch. The team had eaten, and so I'm sitting there, and I'd seen kind of my last patient. I think we were waiting for one more patient to come in, and I'm sitting there, and I began to feel a drop in my energy. Okay, so usually that's not a big deal for me, but I felt a drop in my energy, and I actually had to get up, and I walked downstairs, came back up. Patient was late, and so I came and I sat and I talked to some of the team, and that walking that I did actually helped me to get a little bit more energy up. And I'm not quite sure what caused that drop. Perhaps it was going to bed late last night, but that was a different feel for me during the course of this week. That's not usually something that I see. I can tell when I'm fatigued, which is usually, it feels different, but this one was, I could tell that my energy level had somehow changed at that moment, and going and walking kind of helped with that. So physically, that's where I am. And then we talk about how I'm doing mentally. So the mental part of fasting, and remember, fasting is not just a physical thing. It is a physical, mental, and emotional. That's why I do the check-in on all three of these. So mentally, I'm not feeling sluggish or foggy. During that time when I was feeling drop in energy, I actually felt like I wanted to sleep. As a matter of fact, one of our team members looked outside, and it rained this afternoon. When I say rain, it poured. And so, the skies became dark. We heard the rain as it hit the window as we were sitting there in the office. And I think part of what I was feeling was that. And during that period, I may have felt a little sleepy. And as you're sleepy, sometimes you're not thinking well. And so when I got up, walked downstairs, came back up, then I was clearer. I had more energy. Was able to engage. And so just that act of moving actually helped me through that process this afternoon. And then emotionally, this has been actually a pretty good week. Coming out of last weekend, not a lot of stressful events going on during this week. This is pretty much a pretty chill week. Last night, I came in and I was planning to do a video, but I decided not to do that video and hung out with my son, with my wife. I actually fell asleep on the couch in the family room, and then got up, put my son to bed. Talked with him. He's 15, so not necessarily putting him to bed, but you get the idea. But I usually talk with him before he goes to bed. We have a conversation, we pray, and then I went and I slept, and then woke up this morning. So not a lot of things coming out of the weekend that were very emotional, and not a lot of stressful things going into the week that were very emotional. And so this week, emotionally, I actually felt pretty good. Excited to get into the week, and excited to get into the weekend that's coming up, because we've got, as I told you, we have some things that are coming up here in another several weeks. We got a big camping trip and so forth, and so just kind of getting ready for that. The anxiety, not anxiety, but the excitement is beginning to pick up, and so just very very happy to be in that space. So emotionally, actually feeling pretty good. So let's go ahead, and I want to hop over, and I'm going to take a look at what my Libre is saying. And so this is my Libre monitor, and you see that there on the screen. So my Libre is saying that my blood sugar right now is 62, and that is a 62. If you look at the graph down at the bottom, you'll see that for maybe half of the day, I've been running below 60, or below 70, sorry. The bottom of that green is actually 70. And if I, let's take a look at what my Dexcom is saying. And so Dexcom is saying that over the last 24 hours, we've been kind of hovering right above 70. If I change that to 12 hours and then maybe 6 hours, you'll see how much closer to 70 that is, okay? And then, as you know, I have off to the side here, I have my Keto Mojo meter, which gives me a blood sugar and a ketones. And then also I have here the Contour, which gives me the blood sugar. So let's go ahead and let's do that right now, so we can begin comparing those to see where they are with respect to what my monitors, my CGMs are saying. So let's go ahead and get a strip out for the Contour. And we'll get that one in there. And then we'll start, as I normally do, with a strip for the Keto Mojo, the blood sugar strip. And then we'll come back and do the ketones. So get that one in there. Okay. And the Lancet, typical Lancet that I like to use the Unisticks. They are spring-loaded. Use them once, and then they go away. You throw them away. And so basically, you break this top part off, right? And that just pops out. And then when I press this lever, then the Lancet will come out. I get a poke on my finger, and then we'll get a drop of blood. So I'm going to go ahead and hold this one up, so you can hopefully hear. I'm not sure if you heard that, but let's see if I have a good, yep, that gave me a good drop of blood. So let's go back over here. So we've got a good drop of blood there. And so let's go ahead and put that onto the Keto Mojo, and then over here to the Contour. Okay, we'll see what those are. So Keto Mojo says 64, and then the Contour says 67, 64, 67, and then you'll recall that the Libre said 62, or now 61, and then the Dexcom said 73. So 61, 64, 67, and then 73 is what we're seeing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take the strip out for the blood sugar from the Keto Mojo. We'll open up a strip for ketones. And then let's go ahead and apply that drop of blood. And of course, like I always do, I'm going to not tell you guys what that is. Hop back over here. We'll come back and we'll look at that here in just a minute. So let's hop over and let's talk about our topic for tonight. And the topic tonight has to do with the power of fasting. Okay. And remember that I am over 72 hours now, say over 73 hours and 19 minutes in terms of my fast. Um, and so I guess the backdrop of this conversation has to, of course, talk about why I do what I do in terms of fasting. Okay, and you may be out there and you're asking that question as well. Why are you fasting, and what does fasting do? We'll talk about what fasting does here in a minute, but the why of fasting has to do with what I just described in terms of my training and the places I found myself in dealing with patients. Okay, so when I went to my physician, and he said to me, "Hey, Dwayne, what is really going on?" Right. So I'm the endocrinologist, and we're having conversation, and the question seemed to imply, as he was asking the question, is what we're doing isn't working, and you're the endocrinologist, right? How do we continue doing what we're doing when it's not giving us all the results that we want? Do you understand the question that we were both asking, right? So we were both asking this question about, well, what is the end product? What are we looking for? What are we doing? What are we planning? And to go to this question, let me tell you a quick story. And in fact, I see a little glare on my glasses. Let me change those out because I have on some different ones. But let's do this. Yeah, I think that'll work better. Okay, there we go. And so when I was a kid, my mom would say, "Clean the house," and she'd go to work, and she would be gone. And when she came home, was the time when we cleaned. It wasn't like we were out there cleaning while she was gone. It wasn't until she was coming home that we were like, okay, now it's time for us to clean. And so we would run around the house and we would clean up, and we would do a good job. So she would walk into the house and the house actually looked pretty good, right? So she couldn't tell, well, at least we thought she couldn't tell what was going on all day while she was away. And so the house looked clean. So the floors were clean. It looked swept. There was nothing on the counters. But if she went into a closet, then, or she went under the bed or into a drawer or somewhere, then all this stuff was there, right? Well, the treatment of diabetes is kind of the same way. So we can lower your blood sugar. We know how to do that. We have medications to do it. We've talked about it. We can lower the blood sugar. We can get a good A1C. But the question that we've got to ask is, the blood sugar is good, but where did the sugar go? Like, there's no magic. I mean, it didn't just poof away, did it? Right? So there are all these complications that can come up as a result of the way that we treat diabetes. And so as I started looking around and starting saying, okay, what do I do personally for my health? One of the things that I kept running into was this idea of fasting. Now, I'll tell you, going back in the history of medicine, we did not really give a lot of credence to fasting, right? In fact, we told patients a lot not to fast. In fact, there are many of you out here who are listening to me, who are watching this, who you're like, my doctor has told me that I couldn't fast. I'm a diabetic. I can't fast, right? Because that has been the kind of thought. So I fast because it is a tool, one tool in the toolbox of reversing diabetes. One tool in my toolbox of making changes in my metabolic health. One tool in my quest, in my desire, in my journey to be healthier, right? So that's why fasting. That's why fasting. And so tonight, what I want to do is, in this check-in, I'm going to begin a discussion about fasting. I'm going to come back and we're going to delve deeper into specific types of fasting and different reasons for fasting, different disease processes that you can use fasting to treat. But we're going to begin that conversation here with the power of fasting. That's what we're talking about, the power of fasting. And as I said, 72 hours, 73 hours, 73 or more hours as we get into that process. So what is fasting, right? So what is fasting? So fasting is the voluntary abstention. That is, you're avoiding, you're not taking in. The voluntary abstention from food or drink for a specified period. Voluntarily doing this. That is what fasting is. That is all fasting is. Okay? Now, the power of it is that although it is a simple process, the back end of fasting, the result that we get from fasting is very powerful. Okay? So simple idea. So I'm abstaining. I am not going to eat. I'm going to not drink anything. And that is fasting. I'm voluntarily doing that. And that is different from starvation. So while fasting is voluntary and planned, right? So, hey, I'm going to fast like I do. I'm going to fast next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Or I'm going to fast on Friday. I'm going to fast on Saturday. I'm planning in my schedule that I'm going to fast. Starvation, on the other hand, is involuntary and it can be harmful, right? So starvation, so people will say to you when you start fasting, or if they hear that you're fasting, say, hey, are you starving yourself? And the answer to that is no, I'm not starving myself. I am voluntarily doing this and I've got a plan. So it's voluntary, it's planned, and it is controlled. Whereas starvation is not planned, it's involuntary, and it can be harmful. Okay? So there are different types of fasting. So you can break fasting up into the way you fast, right? The type of fasting, or you can break fasting up into, and you probably have seen this, the diseases that you are using the fasting to treat. So if you scour the internet, you'll hear people talk about the weight loss fast. You'll hear people talk about the reversing diabetes fast. You hear people talk about the immunity fast. And you can go and you can talk about fasting based on the diseases that they treat. We'll come back and we'll do those categorizations as well. But what I want to do here is I'm breaking it down based on the type of fast that we're doing. And we've done a show where we talked about briefly some of the fasts, and we're going to go through those briefly here tonight, and then we'll come back and do more in depth on each of those. Okay? So let me hop over because I think I see. Let's make sure that everything is coming out to you guys. Let's make sure that we are. Okay, yeah, so so I do see that we are live. We had a little glitch here with one of our platforms, and I think let's just go ahead and get rid of that one. Okay. So if you know anybody out there on Instagram, Instagram is currently not live. Have them tell them, hey, come on over because we are here in the space right now. Okay. So types of fasts. So we're going to talk about types of fasts, and these types of fasts actually are broken into time or the thing that you're fasting from. Okay, so let's go through. So intermittent fasting, and so intermittent fasting is what really has been a big proponent. It's been a catalyst for fasting. When people first started talking about fasting, intermittent fasting and actually time restricted fasting, those two were the ones that they began talking about. And intermittent fasting is typically where there's a time of the day, a certain number of hours, that you don't eat, and that's called your fasting time. And then during another time called the eating window is when you're eating. Okay? So intermittent fasting. So I'm intermittently fasting. There's the extended fast, and that's what you have seen me doing. And we typically, as you know, do a 72-hour fasting. So when we're talking about extended fasting, we're talking about fasting that goes typically from 24 hours or longer. So prior to 24 hours, it's not called an extended fast. It can be either an intermittent fast. It could be a time restricted fast. It can be a one meal a day fast. But typically, an extended fast is considered to be 24 hours or longer, right? So the extended fast. So dry fasts. Dry fasts are fasts where, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're not drinking and or eating anything, right? So in our extended fast, we've said that we're abstaining from calories, but we are hydrating, and we're hydrating with non-calorie containing fluids. Right? But in the dry fast, you're not drinking anything at all. So a water fast is really what we're doing, right? So water fast is what we're doing. We're doing food, we're not doing any food, no calories, and we're doing water. Now, let's pause there for a second. When we say water fast, the pure definition of a water fast is that the only thing you're drinking is water. If you heard me talk, we've said that you can do water, you can do unsweetened tea or artificially sweetened tea. You can do any of the electrolyte products that don't have calories. In fact, let me see. Do I have one? Give me just a second here, because I think I do have one that we can that I can show you really quickly. All right. So if you recall, several weeks ago, I actually grabbed a couple of products because we were I was feeling lightheaded and dizzy, and I wanted to hydrate, and so I went out and I bought a couple, and these are the two that I bought. And you recall I did a show where I talked about them. So let's go ahead, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to see. I'll hold it up. So this is. You probably can't see that. Let's see if I can do it this way. All right, so I gotta cover my face, so if it sees my eyes, it'll try to focus on me. All right, so this one is the Propel, and then of course this one is the Zero. I'll just read it out to you. So when I started looking at these, I noticed that one of them had carbohydrates. So I was trying to get electrolytes, but I did not want carbs because carbs, of course, are calories. And so I started looking at them, and when I looked at the Zero, it says zero sugar, right? And I looked at the package, it had 2 grams of carbs. 2 grams of carbs. And then I looked at the Propel, and I looked at the package, and it had less than 1 gram of carb, right? So both of those have carbohydrates in them. But if you look at the package for the Zero, it says 5 calories, and the one for the Propel says 0 calories. So even as you're looking at different products that you're going to use for hydration, you want to be careful with them. And so as a result, ultimately, we would say, how about just do water? Okay. But if you're trying to hydrate and you want to use a product, there are products out there that will allow you to hydrate without calories. You just have to make sure that you are finding the right one. Okay, so dry fast. Okay, there's also a juice fast. And there are lots of reasons why people will use juice fast, so that's out there as well. Time restricted eating, and this is one that's sometimes confused with intermittent fasting. And as I said, we'll come back and we will go through the fast in depth, along with the diseases that people have said these can treat. And then, of course, 1 meal a day, where you're eating one meal. Essentially, you're doing a 23 plus hour fasting, which can be an intermittent fasting, but 1 meal a day. With the 1 meal a day, it doesn't have to necessarily be at a particular time. Intermittent fasting, typically you're doing a scheduled time. And then, of course, alternate day fasting. There's 5 and 2, and you fast one day, you eat the next day, fast one day, eat the next day, and so forth. So lots of different types of fasts that are out there. Okay, so fasting in history. So when we think about fasting, traditionally we've not thought about fasting for health benefits, unless when I was a kid and growing up, one of the things I loved to do was I loved to watch martial arts movies, and so there was always an episode in some show or some movie or some section of the movie where the person who was trying to learn the particular martial arts, they would go out either to the deserts of the hills of a foreign country, and they would go to a monastery or to a place where there were either the masters or the monks or the teachers, whatever they called them in that society and in that culture. They would go there, and part of what they had to do was they would have to learn how to control and manage their body, their breathing, their heart rate, their pain tolerance, their ability to go for long periods without eating or drinking. Okay, so fasting traditionally has been associated with religious practices, also. So Ramadan and Lent and so forth. In fact, when I was growing up, as part of our church culture, there was a fast, right? So you did it either once a quarter, or New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day, they would fast, or getting into the new year, they would pick a day after the new year that you would fast. A lot of you are doing things like Daniel fast or cleanse fast. So lots of religious reasons for doing that. And then ancient healing practices. So fasting was seen as a way of either coming away from quote unquote worldly things at the time, or being able to focus on self so that all of the energies were channeled into the body, right? And that was supposed to give you the ability to be able to heal. So the religious practices. And of course, now that we've come into today's world, one of the things that we're doing, we're talking about fasting as a part of health and wellness. So fasting is part of health and wellness. So religious practices, ancient healing practices, health and wellness trends, and you'll see that now. And so a lot of people are talking now about fasting as part of health and wellness. Okay, so the science behind fasting. So there's a lot of science that has come out. I'm not going to call it any names. We'll do that as we get into some of the other shows. But a lot of people are now talking about fasting as a tool to be able to set ourselves up for success in our metabolic health, in our chronic disease health. The numbers say that 1 out of every 10 Americans live with a single chronic disease, and 1 out of 4 lives with at least 2 chronic diseases. And we're talking about chronic disease, we're talking about diabetes, we're talking about blood pressure, cholesterol, coronary artery disease, strokes, obesity, all of those diseases. It's high, right? I told you at the beginning that we have over 1 billion people on the planet who currently live with diabetes or prediabetes. It's huge. Okay, so there's a lot of studies. There are a lot of studies that have been done to say, are there benefits to this thing that everybody's talking about, this fasting? And the answer to that is yes. In fact, autophagy, and you've heard me talk about autophagy, the body's ability to clean and repair and replenish, and his body's ability to fix. Right, that's the recycling process that goes on. Ketosis, that we're using ketosis in the process of fasting, and we're using ketosis because we're trying to burn those fat cells, change them into ketones, so that the body can use the ketones to do all the things that we know ketones now are good for. Hormone regulation. So we're regulating insulin. Right, we just talked about one of the downsides of insulin. That insulin has all sorts of other issues that come out. It stimulates the appetite. It puts on weight. It causes, it can cause fatty liver, right? Because it's stuffing all the sugar into the liver. It can cause hypertension because it makes the vessels less stretchy, less compliant, right? So all those things can happen. And so we want to make sure, I think I did something a minute ago. Let's see, what did I do? But those things will cause our insulin issues. Okay, there's also immunity. So as we get into fasting, right, and there's an immune fast that people talk about, right? What number of hours do you do to get into that process, right? So immune fast. There is the and then there was the regulation, right? Immune regulation, and then metabolic syndrome. So all of those are scientifically proven, right, that you see benefit with fasting. And then health benefits, right? So specifically now some health benefits. So improved insulin sensitivity. Hey, that's great for us, right? Because we're trying to put diabetes in remission. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to reverse diabetes. Weight loss. Weight loss. That's a big one, right? And we've talked at length about that. In fact, here before we end, as a matter of fact, why don't I do that right now? Let's hop over and let's take a look at what's been going on with my weight. And you guys will recall that in March, we achieved a weight goal, 52 pounds in a year, right? 1 pound a week. And in March, we got down to 188. And you'll see there now that we're 184. All right. So within the year, from March of last year to March of this year, 52 pounds, and then from March of this year to today, March, April, May, June, July, right? So 4 pounds, so a pound a month, basically. Now, one interesting thing about weight, and I want to make this point because it's something that that sometimes will escape people, and sometimes that can get you a little frustrated. The weight journey, if you remember looking at my graphs, my weight journey has not been linear, right? In fact, right, there were times where my weight went up over the years, but the trend is in a downward direction, okay, to where we are now. So as you're seeing your weight, remember that it is a process. So you may see your weight spike up. Like when was this? This was of course March. That was March of last year. Okay, so we were 240. We had been down to 231, but got up to 240 March of last year. And before that, right? So this was let's see. I think that was the highest that I have recorded in this app. But at one time we were 289, so almost 290 pounds, 290 pounds, but heading in the direction of going down. Okay, so as you're seeing your weight, sometimes you may be a little frustrated, but I want you to hang in there because there is benefit. There is benefit and there are positive results. Okay, so weight reduction, so weight loss. Reduce inflammation. Right? So this is amazing. So fasting, right? We're talking about fasting, the scientific benefits of fasting or the health benefits of fasting. So not only insulin sensitivity, not only that we can lose weight, but we can reduce inflammation. Who is that good for? Well, all the people who have diseases that are being affected by inflammation. In fact, a lot of the metabolic diseases that I just mentioned are inflammatory processes. So fasting, when we fix those processes, when we fix those diseases, then they improve inflammation in the body and other things get better. Like what? Like rheumatoid arthritis, like joint aches and joint pains, and muscle aches and muscle pains, and all inflammatory bowel disease. All of the things that inflammation affects can improve as we move into fasting. And then enhanced brain function. Enhanced brain function. This is a whole process that is being studied right now and showing amazing benefit. So enhanced brain function, what does that mean? And let me put some disease processes to that, some names. So one of the places where there's decreased brain function is with what are called neurodegenerative diseases. Neurodegenerative diseases. Those are diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Yeah, right? Brain function, improved brain function. Fasting has also been shown that some cancers can have changes within them due to fasting. Because remember we talked about the immunity, right? So when you fast, it's been shown that at particular lengths of fast, that the white cells, those are the guys who work with immunity. Those are also the guys who work with cancers. The white cells, those are the scavengers. Those are the cells that go out and they eat up cancer, right? The immune system gets more robust. And so those cancer cells can be destroyed. In fact, the immune system gets so good that it forces the cancer cells, through a process called apoptosis, to destroy themselves. So basically, they become suicide cells and they destroy themselves. And then, of course, autophagy comes up and scavenges and gets all of the broken, dead, unused parts of it, and then uses that to create better, newer cells, right? So amazing, right? So the health benefits of fasting, okay? So not only is there science behind it, but there are health benefits. Lots of different types of fasting that are out there. And I want you to make sure that you come back, because we're going to be looking through some of those other fasts and those other things here over the course of the next several shows as we move forward. Okay, all right, and then so that's the health benefits. Those are health benefits. So what are some common myths that we will see and that we will hear when it comes to fasting? Okay, common myth. So myth number one: fasting leads to muscle loss. Fasting leads to muscle loss. And for this one, I want to say yes, fasting does lead to some muscle loss. Okay, let me put it out there. Fasting does lead to some muscle loss. But when we compare the amount of muscle loss that someone has relative to the weight that they may lose, right? So it's a ratio. So if you're 300 pounds, let's say you're 150 pounds overweight, when you start to lose weight, you're going to lose some muscle. It's going to happen. But when you look at the amount of weight that we lose relative to the muscle that we're losing, right, that is not a significant issue. Let me say that. So you will lose muscle, but relative to the weight that you're losing, not that significant. And if we are careful, that is, if we are doing exercises that maintain muscle, then we don't have that problem. The other thing is, in the fasting process, one of the hormones that's regulated, one of the hormones that we see that is enhanced is growth hormone. And growth hormone's job is to help, one of the jobs is to help maintain muscle. Okay? So myth. Myth number two: fasting slows down the metabolism. Fasting slows down the metabolism. And in fact, when we first start fasting, if you are not consistent, then metabolism can slow down, because metabolism is this idea, and the body's pretty smart, right? The body's pretty smart, because the body says, if you give me less food, then I'm going to slow down how much I'm using. It's because I want to conserve it. The body's pretty smart. And so one of the benefits of fasting over simply reducing calories is that when we reduce calories, the body will reduce the metabolism commensurate with the decrease in food, in energy, in calories. But when we're fasting, we're not putting anything in at all. And so the body, by virtue of that, has to go and find energy. It has to go find energy. And when you look at that, you'll see actually that the energy, the rate, the metabolic rate of a person who's fasting actually goes up because we're stimulating epinephrine, cortisol, growth hormone, all those hormones whose job it is to keep metabolism up and to go find energy. I heard someone give the example of seeing a tiger or a lion or any animal that's hungry, right? That hasn't eaten. That animal is not kind of sluggish and just laying around, is it? No, it has heightened senses. Adrenaline is pumping. Cortisol is out, right? Growth hormone is there because those muscles are twitching because it's looking for food. So that's what happens in the body when we fast. The body kind of revs up and say, okay, I am in alert right now because I'm looking for food, and it finds food in itself as it's burning those calories and converting that to energy so that it can continue to function, right? So yes, myth number 2. Myth number 3 is that fasting causes nutrient deficiencies. Fasting causes nutrient deficiencies. And the fact is that if you are eating well, if you're eating a balanced diet on your non-fasting days, then during the fast, there's no reason why you should have nutrient deficiencies. You hear me talk, and we'll do this again on Friday as we walk through the fasting process. You'll hear me saying that the way you prepare for the fast, those non-fasting days, the way you get through the fast, and the way you end the fast are all equally important. And one of the things that you want to do during the non-fasting days is that you want to make sure that you're eating a balanced, nutrient-rich diet as you are anticipating fasting. So myth number 3, that fasting causes nutrient deficiencies. Okay? And then so how do we fast? How do we fast? How do we start a fast? Number 1 is to choose the right fasting method. And one of the reasons I'm going through these is that I want you to have a better understanding, because sometimes when people hear fasting, all they hear is fasting for a long time without eating. There are lots of different ways of fasting, that's for different types of fasting, different reasons for fasting. So we're going to go through those, right? So choose the right fasting method. Number 2, start slow and gradually increase the duration, right? So don't say, okay, today I'm getting up and I'm fasting for 96 hours, right? You got to start slow. So I usually recommend that people start with an intermittent type of fast, right? And we'll talk more about that. And then set a start date and start planning your meals. So when are you going to start? And what meals am I going to eat before I start? And then once I'm getting ready to end the fast, I'm breaking the fast, what am I going to eat at that point? Okay? Come back on Friday. We do a check-in where we walk through the fasting process, and then join us for our community meetup that we do, where you can come in and we talk through the process of fasting. Okay? And then create a supportive environment. A supportive environment. That's what I do here on the channel. That's the community that we have. The community helps move you through, move you into success in the fasting process. Okay? So choose the right fasting method. Start slow and gradually increase the duration. Set a start date and plan your meals. The meals you're going to eat before and the meals you're going to use after, and then create a supportive system. And that is, I love here on Dwain Woode MD, that's what we do, right? We educate, we empower, and we encourage. Encouragement is that supportive system that we talk about. All right? Awesome. And talking about support, I do see one of our community members just hopped in. And so Jennifer saying, howdy all. Glad that you are here. Thank you for stopping by, Jennifer. And if you're out there, right, Jennifer or anybody else, if you've just come out of a fast, right, put out. If you're currently in a fast, put in. And if you're about to get into a fast, put going, right? Out, in, going. Out, in, going. And so I'm going to hop into the chat right now, and I'm going to put in, if I can get my mouse out there, I'm going to put in, right? Because I'm currently in a fast. And so little over, let's see, so we said 72, so 73, almost 74 hours in the fast so far for this week. Okay. All right. So let's hop back over and let's take a look at my report. Take a look at my reports, and you know how we do it. And if you have not done so, yeah, well, that's coming. That's coming up on Friday, what you see on the screen. But if you've not already done so, make sure you get back and look at some of our the shows that we do. The shows that we do on Monday, Monday Central, 7 p.m. Central, and then of course our newest feature to the channel is This Week in Review that airs on Sunday mornings at 6 o'clock. So make sure you get over there and you take a look at those. So Jennifer says that she is, let's see, Jennifer says, I completed a 36-hour fast, just completing it now. Yeah, yes. And so Jennifer, I've been actually talking about you in the office, so I've been telling people about your electrolyte and your hydration. So thank you for sharing that with us. And good for you. So 36 hours. Awesome. And at some point, Jennifer, like I keep saying, I'm gonna have to get some of you guys on, you and Steve and Teresa, so you can tell part of your story. And just a shout out to Jennifer. She shared with us a great success that she had recently. And Jennifer, if you don't mind just dropping that in the comments again and tell us where your BMI was and where it is now, right? So just drop that in for us. All right. So as she's doing that, let's go ahead over and let's hop over and let's take a look at my my report. And of course, these are my hydration things that I had. Okay, let's take a look at my report, and you'll see there on the screen, this is my Dexcom report. And so for the last 2 weeks, 14 days, then my average blood sugar has been 130. And you will recall that these last 2 weeks for me have been interesting because we had birthday, anniversary, 4th of July, and so forth. And so that's a little higher than what it normally is. If I go back and look at my 90-day average, you'll see that probably about 110. Yeah, 108. I was almost there. So 108. Okay. Great place to have the conversation that your blood sugars, your lifestyle will dictate how the numbers are. That is not to put fear, right, into you. So a lot of people become afraid because they say, oh my goodness, look at what I did. But I want you to know that you have control. And we'll talk a little bit here in a little while about the unlimited potential that you have. Okay? So you make the decision. So I made the decision for birthday, my son's birthday, for anniversary, what I was going to eat when we went away on vacation. And you guys saw, I think I may have popped that up. Right, so yeah, there it is. So that was some of the stuff I ate on our trip. Right, Caesar salad. What did I have there? That was red snapper in the upper left-hand corner. There was some bread that came to the table. That's the anniversary piece of cake that they gave us. Those are some fries that are on the table in that left lower corner. Right, so those are things I chose to eat. Yeah, those are the things I chose to eat. And so you will, as you are moving through your health journey, right, will have to understand that you have control. And so it is not that something happened to you, is that you made a decision. And so you can make a decision to eat that cake like I did, or eat that particular thing, but what do we do about it? It is not the eating that is the issue. It is the what we do about it that becomes the issue. So when I came back from our trip, then I went into a fast. Right? Remember, fasting is a tool. Fasting is a tool. All right. All right. So let's go back. And so over 90 days, you'll see there that my I've been in target 88% of the time. And that target is between 70 to 180. My glucose management indicator, that is a surrogate for what my A1C would be, is 5.9. And then if we take a look at each of the days, and I want to take a look at days, and we're going to go back a few days here because I started the fast actually 3 days ago, so 72 hours ago. So that was, let's see, so this would be 72 right here. 24, blah, 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 and Sunday. Okay, so right in here. Okay, so remember I had to change my sensor right here. So the initial number you don't see, right? But right at 6 o'clock I was 126. So 24 hours later, right, 108, right, and 7 o'clock is when I actually started fasting. So 108, 104. 104 to 108. And then at 48 hours, 91. And then right now at 72 hours, 73 hours, 74. And you'll see that blood sugar, right, kind of straddles 70s and 80s. This one right down here is toothpaste, by the way, y'all. You look at that. We're kind of straddling the 70s and 80s for most of the day. Right? So at 72 hours, your question is, wait a minute, why is your blood sugar not zero? And we've talked about the fact that as part of the conversion of fat to energy, the body converts it to what are called triglycerides. And triglycerides have that tri meaning 3, and glyceride, glucose, right? So it's basically, it's kind of like, right, it's kind of like a molecule, this big thing down at the bottom with 3 fatty acids attached to it. And those fatty acids break off and they become ketones. They get converted to ketones. But this big part that's left turns into sugar, right? Glycerol gets turned into glucose. And that the body uses, and so that's why your blood sugar doesn't go to zero, because the body still, unless you're fasting and has depleted all of the resources within the body, then you can have blood sugars that are really low. But if you're fasting 24, 36, 48 hours, 72 hours, and your blood sugar is staying, 60s, 70s, 80s sometimes, right? The reason it's doing that is because the body still has ample energy to go. I can tell you the number of people that I talk to in the office, and they say, I'm hungry, right? I feel like I'm starving. Well, if your weight is up, if you're overweight, if you struggle with obesity, right? Metabolic syndrome, then there is ample energy in your body that's stored that the body can then convert to energy to function. So this idea of hungry and starving is much of it has to do with our thought process, right? And we'll talk about our heat model here in a little while. Okay, so let's hop over and let's take a look at blood sugars on my meter. But before we get there, I do see another one of our community members just popped in, and so Teresa is saying, evening, doctor, and everyone. Just finished this 27-hour fast. Teresa, yeah! I love it. I love it. I love it, Teresa. Um, that's how we do it. That's how we do it, right? Once a week, we've asked you to at least do a 24-hour fast. That's where we start. If you remember that last slide that I did on how to start a fast, let's see, where's that last slide that I did on how to start a fast? One of the things I said was to start slow and gradually increase the duration, right? So you saw Teresa's doing just finished a 27-hour fast. Jennifer did a 36-hour fast. We've done here together 72-hour fast. In fact, I think Jennifer a couple weeks ago, several weeks ago, did the 72-hour fast. Okay, and our community members are doing this, and we didn't just start out with 72 or 96 or whatever number we are at, right? We started out with shorter fasts and then kind of worked our way up to those. All right, so let's go ahead and I want to take a look at ketones. And so here is my Keto Mojo meter, and then I need to get to my Keto Mojo app. Here we are. Let's go ahead and take the strip out, and we'll get that started, and we'll see it syncing here in just a minute. So what do you think my ketones are going to be? What do you think my ketones are going to be? Right, so over 72, 74, 73, 74 hours. 74 hours of fasting. Okay, what do you think ketones are going to be? Let's see. Let's go ahead and get that started. And you'll see it say syncing or scanning in progress. It'll pull all that information over. And then let's take a look. Let's take a look. Do you think you can guess? You think you can guess? Okay. All right. So look at that. So ketones, 1.9. 1.9 are what the ketones are. Remember, ketones less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis. And then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. And for energy, for fat burning, for all of those, you know that your body is burning fat if you are seeing ketones, right? So I have people who say, oh, I fasted for 12 hours or I fasted for whatever number of hours, and so I went into fat burning. I went into ketosis. Well, you don't really know unless you are checking. Or here's another kind of caveat to that, right? So if you're doing an extended fast, and we say extended fast, we're talking about 24 hours or longer, then by virtue of doing that fast, you are much closer to ketones than if you were to do like an 8-hour fast. Okay, so let me just say that. So an 8-hour fast, maybe your ketones are 0.3, 0.4. But if you're doing a longer fast, then we know that you're much closer. So your chances of being in ketosis, 0.5, is much higher. Okay, if you're doing those extended fasts. So love Teresa, love Jennifer, the fast that you guys are doing. Okay, and so let's take a look at my actual graphs. And the tan line that you see there, that is blood sugar. And of course, the turquoise line, those are ketones. And you'll see as we fasted, the blood sugars went down and the ketones began rising. And to the point where we are right now, 1.8 for ketones and 64 for blood sugar. And that's what we want to see. If we take a look at this particular screen, that 1.9 that you see in the middle is called the glucoketo index, and it simply is your blood sugar divided by ketones, right? So we want glucose to be lower. If glucose is lower, then insulin has to be lower as well. When insulin is low, then ketones go up. Ketones go up because we know, not because, but ketones are low. The ketones are high. We want glucose to be low. Ketones are high. Ketones are high or elevated because the body is burning fat and converting it to ketones. And if that's the case, then the GKI is low. So dividing sugar by ketones, then we get a lower number. Okay. At one point, I think I had a 0.2 or something like that. If I go back to the history of this, you'll see that let's see if I can find one when I was not fasting. So here's one. It says infinity. You see that right there? Let's take a look at that one. So the ketones were so low and the glucose was so high that it couldn't even calculate it, right? So definitely was not in ketosis at that point. Awesome. All right. And then let's go back here. I asked Teresa to pop some things into the chat for us. Let's see what she says. All right. So it's not Teresa, Jennifer, sorry. Jennifer said, lab work done last Wednesday, A1C 5.4. What? Jennifer, I gave you an extended version of the music. Right. So A1C 5.4. Let's see. So weight was 293. I love that. Love that. And so Teresa saying congratulations to Jennifer. I love that. I love that. Yay. Good for you, Jennifer. Let's give you a hand clap. Y'all, this is the success that we've seen. This is success that's happening. Okay? And that's happening not just in isolation. So not just a particular type of person, not just a particular, it happens, it can happen across the board if you are following the process. Okay? And great place for me to say that if you are out there, you do not have diabetes, you are listening and you think, oh, well, I don't have diabetes, I don't have to listen to that. No, 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 no. We're talking about improving metabolic disease, and the prototypic disease for metabolism is diabetes. But high blood pressure, high cholesterol, coronary artery disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome, all of those are metabolic diseases. And so diabetes being the prototypic, if it works there, it works in all of those different places as well. So not just because you're not diabetic means that it doesn't apply to you. Make sure that you don't think that, because you can have benefit as well. In fact, great place to talk about the unlimited potential that you have at your fingertips. Within your grasp, there's unlimited potential to be better metabolically, to improve your health, unlimited potential to learn, unlimited potential to create the destiny, create your destiny, or dictate your destiny even. Just in our office today, or not just today, but I say this, right? I say this to my patients, my team. As a matter of fact, one of our team members asked me to write something out for her today, what she asked yesterday. We wrote it out today. But you have unlimited potential. You possess unlimited potential. And within you is the power to create your destiny. That's it right there. On the back of my cup, and you guys don't see this all the time, but on the back of my cup, there's a saying that I came up with. And here it is. Let me see if I can have you see that. It says, I am now becoming the person I thought I would be 20 years ago. I want you to hear that. I am now becoming the person I thought I would be 20 years ago. So every time I hold my cup up and you see New Year, New You, on the back of it is a reminder of where I'm heading. Unlimited potential. You have that at your fingertips. And you unlock that with education, empowerment, and encouragement. That's what we do here on the channel. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows, the blogs, the podcasts. All of that is with the intention of providing education. Right? That's what we do. When you hear me talking, education. We empower with the tools that we learn here on the show, on the channel. All the tools, emotional intelligence, the HEAT model, how to fast, how to create a menu. All of those are with the intention of providing the power. So it's empowerment. So that you're not just hearing things. The hearing changes the mindset. It gives you a frame shift. But the empowerment comes in the tools that you now have access to use to create what you want. And then the encouragement comes from the community, right? One of the things that we talked about in the fasting process is to create a community. And this community, I love the fact that this community is where it is. I love that I'm a part of the community. We've got Jennifer, we've got Teresa, right? We've got Steve when he's on. We've got other people that come in. We love the fact that you are part of the community because we all help each other, right? So we educate, we empower, we encourage. The triple E formula for success, that's what that's called. And the heat model tells us the things that push us beyond our decision, that push us through our decision, that runs over our decision to be healthy, to eat in a certain way, right? The habits that we form, those routines that we have. The emotions, we're happy, we're sad, we're tired, we're bored. All of those will push us in a direction that we don't want to go. The access to food. And I'm going to talk about that one. Yeah, we're going to talk about that one because remember those nuts that I bought? That thing of nuts that I said the mixed nuts are going to be better? They weren't. Now, I have them out there, so I think I ate a third of the, maybe a little over a third of the. And it's, when you go to Sam's, you get that big one. That's what I got. But we'll talk about that another time. And then taste. One of the things that I always want to say with taste is that we're never chasing taste. We're never chasing the food. I still say we're not chasing taste. We're not chasing the food. We're chasing what the food does for us, the space that it creates in our mind, the emotions that it brings up or calms or helps us avoid, the place that it takes us to, the memory, that place that we went that time when we ate that thing and we felt that way, right? That's what taste does. When I go to New York, pizzas, hot dogs, Chinese food. Why? Because it connects me to my dad. And so once I know that about myself, once I'm mindful, once I am self-aware, once I use my emotional intelligence, I can tell that, and now I have the ability to fix it. And here on the channel, our call to action: when you show up. Well, not when you show up, but join the challenges. We do a challenge every month. Every month we have something that we want you to do so that you could begin learning and applying the things that we're using. One, figure out the why. Why do you want to do the things you want to do? I think that was in January. This is the one for this month. Number 2, in February, what fasting? Let's work our way up to be able to fast for a 24-hour period. We just talked about fasting. Start slow and work your way up at least 24 hours once a week. Right? We'll talk more as we get to the different types of fast, why they do different amounts and what they do in terms of disease processes. Right? Figure out what is the challenge, what is the trigger for you. Which of these is yours? That's one of the challenges. Mine is EAT. EAT. Emotions, access, and taste. Emotions, access, and taste. Spells eat. Interestingly enough. Figure out how to create food, menus, dishes, right? So we've asked you in one of the challenges to create a menu, create a dish, a food, a meal that minimizes processing, decreases sugar, not a lot of added sugar, whole foods, non-starchy vegetables, starchy vegetables that taste good, that has the appropriate portion sizes, healthy fats, lean protein. And then we ask you also to begin mentoring someone. Find somebody in your community, at your church, in your family, at your job, who needs to be working on the New Year, New You process, and bring them along with you. Walk alongside them. Be their mentor as you teach them the New Year, New You process. And all of that is out on our YouTube channel, by the way. Right? So if you go to the YouTube channel, you will see the playlist, and the playlist is called How to Reverse Your Diabetes. I've been pointing a lot of people to that. That is the playlist that we want you to that I want you to point people to. How to Reverse Your Diabetes. There's also the one that's out there that's called How to Fast Successfully, right? Where all of these shows are going to be in. But as you're talking to people and they say, "Hey, how do I begin? How do I start?" That's where you want them to begin. How to reverse your diabetes. And you can see that if you get onto our YouTube channel. It's out there. I was trying to pull that. Oh, here it is. Let's go ahead and pull that up so I can show you. Let's see. Here we are. All right, so that's the playlist, how to reverse your diabetes. And all the shows that we do on Dwain Woode Live, that's Mondays at 7 p.m. Central, they're in that playlist. Okay, so point somebody there. So join the challenges. When you show up, tell your story. Share your story, just like Jennifer sharing her story. Just like Teresa sharing her story. And say, hey, I'm fasting. I've done a 24-hour fast. I've done a 30-hour fast. I've done a 36-hour fast. Hey, my BMI is this. My weight is this. Right? My A1C is this. I love that. 5.8. Jennifer. Love it. And then invite someone. Let them know what's going on. Over 1 billion people on the planet who have diabetes or pre-diabetes. You can be a voice for change. Make sure you are letting them know. Send them the link. Say, hey, let's go watch this together. And then our pillars for reversing diabetes. Number 1, decrease insulin. Number 2, suppress your appetite. And number 3, reduce sugar. Those are the 3 pillars. That is the key. And that is a huge, huge part of New Year, New You as we move into this space. As always, I'm glad that you are here. Thank you for joining me as I am now over 74 hours in this fast. I was thinking about breaking it. As a matter of fact, I brought some stuff home tonight to break the fast, but I think I'm going to wait and break the fast tomorrow because I don't want to eat tonight. As I told you, I know myself. And if I break the fast now and I start eating, right, I've got the entire rest of the evening, right? Not a whole lot of the evening, but I've got the evening and I'm going to be up doing some things here and I'm going to want to eat. So I'm going to hold off on breaking the fast and I'm going to break the fast tomorrow sometime. I'm not sure when. But right now, over 74 hours of fasting, and the benefits of fasting come in all the benefits come, as we talked about before, from fasting. Okay. It is a tool, right? So I want you to hear me. It is a tool that you have in your toolbox that you could pull out at any time and you can use. As we come and we talk more over the next couple of days, as we do check-ins and as we move into check-ins in the future, we're going to be talking specifically about some of the different fasts and what they do and why you would do one versus another. And of course, on Fridays, we do our fasting review where we walk through the fasting process. So make sure you join us. Come back tomorrow for a check-in. Come back on Friday, we'll do another check-in. And then on Sunday, This Week in Review at 6 o'clock Central, right here on Dwain Woode MD. As always, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, New Year, New You. Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.